What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Excuse me. Welcome to another fantastic episode of the Tribune Show, the Sunday night best place that you can be at 11 p.m. I already saw in the comments somebody was looking forward to a third flat smack, unless a Glober calls in. I don't know if that's going to happen. That's not this type of show, but definitely open to it. Appreciate you all tuning in. As always, we got a lot of exciting things planned for you today. Something really exciting that I've been uh, putting together. Not really a presentation of my own, so to speak, but just kind of pulling together some information that I think is pretty valuable, not only for the flat Earth versus globe Earth or the true Earth debate, but also for a bunch of other things, which we will see here shortly. First and foremost, huge shout out to John Osborne. Show hadn't even started yet. Thank you for the generous donation. Shout out to Sky's Limit as well, joining us over on Rockfin, the Big Kids Club. We will definitely be heading over there at the halfway mark, so be sure that if you haven't had an account, that you go and create one. It's free, unless you want to support content creators like myself. Moving on, today's episode titled "Closer to the Heart." Wanted to go ahead and amongst all the negative, tragic news that has been happening. Um, I know my title, my description, I guess, was a little misleading. That was my uh April Fool's joke to you guys. We're not going to be covering too much contentious topics. Pardon my twisted tongue, but we will be actually seeking to unify what the mainstream science and the true earthers can get behind. That way we can move forward with full vigor, actually progress the conversation. And not only that, but this will actually spill in heavily into metaphysics. Not to give away too many spoilers, but I do feel that after today, we will have some pretty good working base information to really start, you know, cultivating some experiments behind manifestation and how that whole thing actually works. What is the mechanic behind it? Um, Surely we're not just going to keep saying that it's magical thought woo, right? So that is what I'm going to seek to do tonight. We are joined by my guest, Adventureline. I probably said that, butchered it. You can kind of, man, it's really bright. This is my nice little green stone. Anybody who's unfamiliar can go ahead and look it up. This little guy is really fun, really uplifting energy, great for growth and positive vibes, and great for manifesting anything, just about, right? And there's a reason why this stuff works, right? So it's like not just this, but you also have quartz and amethyst and all kinds of, precious stones that all seem to have some sort of, effect, which mainstream scientific community would scoff at and call, uh, again, scientific woo, basically. So I feel like we'll actually have a really good mechanic of explaining how this can work. And that way, kind of put more meat behind it, if that makes sense. But before we go any further, I do want to shout out all of you who have decided to join us over on YouTube. We definitely appreciate you. Huge shout out to the legend Mellow Dome. Let's go ahead and do a shameless little plug because it is for a good cause. We have the Mellow Dome trivia coming April 19th. It will be yours truly versus Jeranism. So definitely tune in for that. That is going to be a whole barrel of fun. Nuba, much love as well, brother. Doug Maurer, Geocentric Earth. Yes, my friend, two flat Earth versus globe debates. Flattened today. I completely agree. It was absolutely great to see. Kind of getting a little redundant with some of the same arguments, but I think the more that we get them refined and we actually get more admissions from the other side on what is the assumptions versus what is the actual facts and measurements, I think we'll be doing all right. We should name this as a holiday. Hilarious. FE Nation, what is up, my friend? Much love. Ever Bees, Jeremy Bird, what is up, brother? Much love. And QTA, question the answers. Welcome to the show, my friend. We have a banger today. So let's go ahead and just dive right in it, right? I'm going to go ahead and attempt to explain why the heck it is that these little guys actually do what they do. And it's really funny because when you look at a lot of these stones and what their so called abilities are, they, pretty much revolve around their color for the most part. So, for example, purple stones will be really good for the third eye and intuition, things like that. Things green will typically be good for connection, overall positive vibes. The whole feeling of love that comes with having a nice open heart chakra, so on and so forth. You kind of get the idea. So why is that the case, right? What the heck is going on there? Is it true that it's just, mental woo? We're just tricking ourselves with the idea, with the idea that these stones are helping us. FE Nation, they definitely cannot provide any evidence of water sticking or bending around a ball, and anything they have shown has been surface tension, obviously. So that's because the molecules are, man, I struggle to say that. Molecules, atoms, all that whole paradigm, if you will. It actually is a great segue into the first thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is something that has been touched on quite a bit with the ether debate in the True Earth community. It's going to be particle theory versus wave theory, or this article is actually titled "Real Talk: Everything is Made of Waves." So really funny. It is from seemingly mainstream, right? This wasn't hidden at all. This is just actually an old article from 2013. Let me go ahead and drop it for you guys, and then I'll go ahead and screen share. Come on, don't take forever on me. Awesome. Alrighty. Yeah, this article is pretty interesting. They talk about some things that I've never heard from the mainstream physics community at all. So let's go ahead and, as soon as I get these posted for you, dive right on in. Where are you at? Boom. Okay. You got to get a glimpse of my OBS for just a second, but I have no other way of doing this, so it is what it is, right? Actually, there is a way. Never mind. I'm going to transition you. Boom. Actually, there isn't a way to do it. Man, I'm dumb sometimes. Nothing wrong with admitting your flaws. Let's go ahead and dive right on into it, shall we? Okay, so this comes from symmetrymagazine.org, and it is going to be real talk. Everything is made of fields. Talking from theorist Sean Carroll. If anybody would like to go and check up on them and their research, all the particles including the Higgs, are actually fields. Imagine that. The whole idea that we've been hearing of atoms just being a conception coming all the way back from the cult of atomism or atomos seems to have some weight. Let's go ahead and check this out. Scientists talk to non-scientists about particle physics. They talk about the smallest building blocks, what you get when you divide cells and molecules into their tinier and tinier bits until you can't divide them anymore. That's one way of looking at things. But it's really not the way things are, said Caltech theoretical physicist Sean Carroll in a lecture at Fermilab. The physicist, I'm sure if I dug hard enough, I could have found that lecture instead of reading this article, but this will, cut it, most of it for us, so we don't have to do too much heavy lifting. But again, anybody can go check that for themselves. Physicists really want other people to appreciate the discovery of the Higgs. He said, it's time to tell them the rest of the story. What is the rest of the story? Let's read on. To understand what is going on, you actually need to give up a little bit on the notion of particles. That is hilarious. Just give up on it. Probably because it doesn't make sense. We'll see. Carroll said in the June lecture, instead, think in terms of fields. You're already familiar with some fields. When you hold two magnets close together, you can feel their attraction or repulsion before they even touch. An interaction between two magnetic fields, likewise, you know that when you jump in the air, you're going to come back down. Oh, they're going to invoke the gravity here. Well, that's fine. They're heliocentrists, of course. Carol Stunner, at least to many non scientists, is this: every particle is actually a field. I'm just pulling it right from the article here, not making this up at all. Every particle, every single one, is actually a field. The universe is full of fields, and what we think of as particles are just excitations of those fields, like waves in an ocean. An electron, for example, is just an excitation from an electron field. Imagine that. Imagine that. Now, see, this makes a lot more sense to me than an atom just being full of all this empty space and it having these things orbiting around it. Um, Kind of seems like they're trying to reify the idea, the big and the small. We kind of know that intuitively, but then they try to make this seem more like it's replicating like the solar system or something like that, when in actuality, it's simply field interactions. So this may seem counterintuitive, but seeing the world in terms of fields actually helps make sense of some otherwise confusing facts about particle physics. When radioactive materials decay, for example, we think of them as spitting out different kinds of particles. Neutrons decay into protons, electrons, and neutrinos. Excuse me. Those protons, electrons, and neutrinos aren't hiding inside neutrons, waiting to get out, yet they appear when the neutrons decay. If we think in terms of fields, this sudden appearance of new kinds of particles starts to make more sense. The energy and excitation of one field transfers to others as they vibrate against each other, obviously, making it seem like new types of particles are appearing. So thinking in fields provides a clearer picture of how scientists are able to make massive particles like the Higgs and the Large Hadron Collider. The LHC smashes bunches of energetic protons. Okay, they're going into pseudoscience land here, but you get the idea. Again, I linked the full article. Oh, nice. The lecture's right here. Hilarious. Perfect. Particles, fields, and the future of particle physics. Right? This was in 2013, so this is nothing new. We should be, very privy to this by now. But again, it's just not really being taught at least in the academic circles that I've seen, right? So when we're talking this is really important to note, right? Because especially when we're talking about the True Earth debate, there was a big thing that, kind of would debunk the whole model of heliocentrism, and that is the ether, which is just the idea of this background energy, this background medium that makes up everything. And again, if everything's made up of fields, and there are fields throughout the whole universe, regardless of what model you subscribe to, then why can't that field be the ether, right? Just something to consider. So let me go back over here. I really enjoyed seeing that. Just some mainstream admittance of. You go ahead, give you a transition. Some mainstream admittance of what was going on in, physics. So goes ahead and brings me right into the next thing. Let's close this out. Perfect. So this is just a Wikipedia page, right? And I want you to remember that when we were talking about in the last week's show, biofields, right, and how they're completely scientific, totally cool to talk about those, and seem still scientific. However, if you talk about auras, right now you're talking in the land of woo, right, and it seems really like they're splitting hairs. I think this is a prime example of that. So here's the Wikipedia page for vacuum energy. Right, and then you might be wondering, what the hell is vacuum energy? I've heard this brought up by Austin Whitsitt in one of his aggressive rantings, where he's just eviscerating the globe believers. Let's go ahead here. Vacuum energy and underlying background energy. Can't even make this up, guys. Can't even make this up. It is the underlying background energy that exists in space throughout the entire universe. Okay, so this totally scientifically sound, right? The effects of vacuum energy can be experimentally observed in various phenomena such as spontaneous emission, the Casimir effect, and Lamb shift, and are thought to influence the behavior of the universe on cosmological scales. So they're already admitting here that there's a there's something that weaves throughout the entire, background of everything, right? So whether you want to call it vacuum energy or aether or God or heaven energies, it's really just semantics at this point, and they're trying really hard to keep us just fighting, right, over the science instead of just unifying over some very basic things, right? So we should be able to unify behind the idea that there is no such thing as a true vacuum, that there is something that is permeating throughout, all of existence. And then the question becomes, is that something also happen to be responsible for what is being excited for magnetism and light, right? Because and this is something else that few people know, is that magnetism, electrostatics, and light are all intrinsically related. They're basically all the same thing. So let me get out of here. I don't like staying in Wikipedia too long. Okay. So let's go ahead and this is actually from science or science.nasa.gov. So I want to save this real quick so I can post it in the chat. Oh, can't believe I just did that. I just pasted instead of copied, and now it's gone, but that's fine. I can pull it up real quick. That one's very easy to find. It's titled The Anatomy of Light, or The Anatomy of Electromagnetic Waves, I should say, if that gives anything away. Boom, got it. Easy. Easy peasy. All right. So now let's copy that. Perfect. Mojo Shop, what is up? Huge shout out while I'm looking at the chat for you guys. Big Pine Sailing, Unindoctrinated Ryan. I don't know how to say your name in the Indoctrinated, so you're just going to have to deal with it. I hope that link is clickable. It should be. If it's not, hey, another good reason to go on over to Rockfin, right? So let's go ahead and get back to it. So this is the anatomy of an electromagnetic wave. And the reason why I bring this up is because it also has to do with light intrinsically. I'm not going to read this whole thing because it's very long. So let's go ahead and skip down a little bit. I'm going to go right down to visible light. Oh, crap. It took me to a whole nother. Well, first off, I mean, this is actually a good page, too. A tour of the electromagnetic spectrum, right? So that right there is a dead giveaway, right? We should know it intuitively that light is electromagnetic in nature. It is part of that spectrum. And so another thing that's also known is that there is electromagnetic radiation throughout the entire universe. So again, this excitation. Let me go ahead and get back to, I'm trying to find the exact place that I was before. So give me just a moment. Oh, this is rich. You guys will actually appreciate this. This is some prime begging the question here. Okay, energy. A measure of the ability to do work comes in many forms. First off, what the hell? Just the measure of an ability to do work spread throughout the entire universe doesn't make any sense when you word it like that. They need to come up with a better definition of energy. Comes in many forms and can transform from one type to another. Stored in potential, blah, 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 blah. Objects in motion are examples of kinetic charged particles, such as electrons and protons. create electromagnetic fields when they move, and when these fields transport the type of energy we call electromagnetic radiation or light. Okay, so definitely field excitations. That would imply that there has to be some sort of medium background for them to, work off of. What are electromagnetic and mechanical waves? So here the fuckery, mind my language, begins. Mechanical waves and electromagnetic waves are two important ways that energy is transported in the world around us. Waves in water, sound waves, are two examples of mechanical waves. Waves are caused by disturbance or vibration in matter, whether solid, gas, liquid, or plasma. Matter that waves are traveling through is called a medium. Okay, so we got some basic science here. I don't think anybody would disagree with this. Right? Up and up. Sounds good. Here we go. Water waves are formed when vibrations, blah, 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 blah. Sound from the vibrations of gas. We know this. Okay. These mechanical waves travel through the medium. Talking about molecules, blah, blah, blah. All right, let's get to sound waves cannot travel in the vacuum of space because there's no medium. All right, I could have not read that whole thing. Sorry, guys. Jesus Christ. Electromagnetic waves can be static, like the energy in your hair stand on end. Magnetism can also be static, as in the refrigerator magnet. A changing magnetic field will induce a changing electric field, and vice versa. The two are linked. These changing fields form electromagnetic waves. Electromagnetic waves differ from mechanical waves. Here we go. This is what I was looking for, this part right here. Electromagnetic waves differ from mechanical waves in that they do not require a medium to propagate. What the hell? Is there anything else that makes these different? This means that their electromagnetic waves cannot travel only through air and solid metals, but also through a vacuum of space. Well, so this explanation doesn't really make a whole lot of sense when you think about it, because there is electromagnetic radiation, right? Or light radiation throughout the entire universe, right? There's not an ounce of space in the mainstream model that isn't that has no electromagnetic properties or dispersion or radiation, whatever you want to call it. So we have that, which is admittedly light and magnetism. And yet, we're going to say that there's no medium just because we want to reify this vacuum. It just doesn't make, on its face, if it sounds stupid, that's because it is. It makes a whole lot more sense intuitively, naturally, that the, background medium, this vacuum energy or aether, is actually what the magnets and electricity and all of other matter intrinsically are actually excitating off of. Right? And if you don't want to say it's that, at the end of the day, mainstream physics is saying we're all wave excitations. So it would make sense intuitively that there is some base, like some base wave, some background medium, if you will. So it makes no sense for them to say that it doesn't require any medium. This is how you fall into the virtual photons and the idea that, light can be this duality of particles and a wave at the same time, which, again, it doesn't make any sense at all for it to be like that. It makes perfect sense for it to be a wave. Now, you guys have the rest of the article here. I'm not going to go through the whole rest of the thing because it's pretty lengthy, and not all of it is factual, as you've just seen. But you can get some pretty cool things. It talks about polarization of light. More proof that light is actually magnetic. It has poles. It can be separated. Anybody who's ever heard of ferrofluid knows that magnetism can indeed affect the way that we see light, what happens to the light rays. So again, it just makes perfect sense. Now, I did say that we were going to try to bridge the gap here. So how does this relate to these little rocks that we're looking at? Right? How is it that these rocks can have any kind of effect at all and it not be, just a trick of the mind? And when you think of things in terms of fields, it actually makes it make a lot more sense. Because if it's just like light photons, then I guess I could visualize this green dots of light, coming into my retinas and then giving me some sort of health benefit. I mean, I guess that could be the case. But what's more likely the case is that the field that is generated from this object, which it is a field, right? And that's why it does dissipate the inverse square law of light. It is a field and it interacts with our field. And it's as simple as that, right? It's really not that complicated. This interaction of the two fields, and possibly more, can have different effects. So it can definitely be easier to think of it as just mental woo, right? But the truth is that the reason why we think of these stones in this way is because we've observed it consistently. So is the color the cause of the effect, or is the effect the cause of the color? Who knows? That's a great question. So let me go ahead. There was something else that I wanted to get into here. A little bit on the lighter side is actually pretty funny. So there was a modern day debate last night of between Mark Reed and Flatzoid, and I always watch them because I'm always hoping to hear some sort of really good, concise argument from the Globe side. So, I cross my fingers. But what I heard this time was just absolutely hilarious, so I decided to go ahead and grab it. So let's go ahead and check it out.
No, they're not deceptive. Gravity is a thing. We can measure slight changes in pressure due to gravity inside some containers. Definitely can. The whole thing is that in order to demonstrate and sort of so Flatzoid's going to an unfalsifiable claim kind of thing, or basically requesting proof that is outside of what is possible to demonstrate. Because in order to show the gravity of Earth and its effects, you need something the mass of Earth. And that is the Earth. And we can see sort of atmospheric pressure gradients on other planets that have mass as well. But, Flatzoid will then just beg the question and sort of say, oh, well, that's not real. We haven't been there kind of thing. So it's just sort of a article of faith. And we could see him go to the faith article. That's all it is. It's an article of faith that it can't be real, as in my presentation, the first reason this has been studied by psychologists. So the whole thing is, if you have a container, like a bottle or something, and you have gas within it, it will not make a pressure gradient. Even if one side is warm, like you warm it up on the bottom, and it's cool on the top, it will not make a pressure gradient. The only way that can happen is by gravity. That is the only way. No,
Oh my goodness. Absolutely hilarious. The accusation of begging the question in his begging the question fallacy of trying to demonstrate gas pressure without a container, and then goes on to completely biff it, completely lie about the analogy with hot and cold water. There's actually an experiment you can watch on YouTube. I'm not going to pull it up because it's got music. I don't want to get copyright hit. But you can actually watch what happens, and Mark is dead wrong. It definitely does create a pressure gradient. So what are you going to do? Just invoke that gravity indeed did that as well. Here's a prime example of mirrored prime example of a gravity tower. And you can have solid objects, not solid objects, all kinds of different stuff, water, dish soap, milk, liquids, if you will. So it is fluid dynamics and the different static properties, right? Because there's different, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a different charge potential between each of these objects, and so that's definitely going to keep them from separating out. In gases, it's not quite the same. So that's really why we're looking for that demonstration of the gases not violently going to a area of much, much less density, right? How in the heck is that going to work without just invoking scale? Can we not just invoke fallacies, right? So that was good for a laugh. I thought that was Mark's April Fool's joke. Not so sure, But hey, what are you gonna do, right? Let's go ahead and get into the next thing. How are we doing on time? We're doing perfecto. Breezing right through it. I'm not trying to go all night tonight. It's a nice Sunday. So let's go ahead and on to the next one. So the next thing is going to be what the heck was this? Ah, yes. So I got a cool video for you guys to watch. It's very short. Just like 2 minutes. I don't think I'm gonna get copyright for this old music, right? And this will also go to show you like how these ideas are not brand new, right? This isn't cutting edge. It's actually pretty old, pretty studied too. Okay, let me go ahead and transition for you. Boom. Where are we at? Alrighty. Let's get it.
Over the past 18 years, our research center has investigated heart-brain interactions, how the heart and the brain communicate with each other, and how that affects consciousness and our perceptions. One of the things we identified in our research was the state we now call coherence. And what we found was that when we're feeling positive emotions, like we're really appreciating the sunset, or really feeling love or compassion or care for someone, that the heart beats out a very different message. The heart generates by far the largest rhythmic electromagnetic field produced in the body. And what we've now found is that if we look at the spectrum analysis of the magnetic field radiated by the heart, that emotional information is actually encoded and modulating into those fields. So by learning to shift our emotions, that's changing the information we're encoding into the magnetic fields radiated by the heart, and that can impact those around us. We are fundamentally and deeply interconnected with each other and the planet itself, and what we do individually really does count and matters.
Alrighty, I just noticed my thing was muted, so I hope that you guys heard some of some of that. Whoopsie daisy. Let me I gotta check the chat now. Wowee. I just see straight fire, so I'm sure it is good. Nominal, have you ever considered doing modern day debate? Of course, I actually did one back when my equipment was garbage, and it wasn't very good, so don't watch it. I was defending the existence, the obvious and very real existence of spirits that everybody tries to either demonize or claim doesn't exist. So I was going ahead and defending that. But yeah, my equipment was terrible, so I couldn't actually present anything. And yeah, huge shout out Rasta Bear Mojo Shop. Sound is good, awesome. How are we doing over on the Rockfin? Nice, dude. Very, very nice. Okay. So with that, what the heck are they talking about, right? Well, this is again another point that Whitsitt has mentioned in passing, the fact that the heart has an electromagnetic field produced by it. So how does that work? It's actually, I hope that this is still a working link. All right, let's try it. Okay, perfect, perfect. All right, let's go ahead and share the screen, share the dream. Make sure you support the stream. All right, cardiac torsion and the electromagnetic fields. The cardiac bioinformation hypothesis abstract. So now when people ask, like, where's your scientific paper? Here you go. Let's go ahead and I will get that in the chat here in just a moment when we're done here. So abstract. Although in physiology, the heart is often referred to as a simple piston pump. there are, in fact, two additional features that are integral to cardiac physiology and function. First, the heart, as it contracts in systole, also rotates and produces torsion due to the structure of the myocardium. Second, the heart produces a significant electromagnetic field with each contraction due to the coordinated depolarization of myocytes producing a current flow. Unlike the electrocardiograph, the magnetic field is not limited to volume conduction and extends outside of the body. That last part's huge. Extends outside of the body. This, at the very least, can give you guys a mechanism of why the heck you can feel eyes on you, right? Have you ever been there? You've been sitting in a room and you just felt like someone was watching you. So you start doing one of these, and then you realize that, yeah, actually somebody is looking at you. Pretty crazy, right? How that's a thing. But again, an obvious proof, and these guys were actually attempting to go and, yeah, do this information here. Therapeutic potential for interaction of this cardio electromagnetic field, both within and outside the body, is largely unexplored. It is our hypothesis that the heart functions as a generator for bioinformation that is central to normative function of the body. The source of this bioinformation is based on vortex blood flow in the left ventricle, cardiac electromagnetic field, and both heart sounds and pulse pressure, which produce frequency and amplitude information. So your pulse is literally, rhythmic. It does have an amplitude. It does have a frequency. Thus, there is a multidimensional role for the heart in physiology and biosocial dynamics. Now, before everybody gets jumping to it, it's like, are they also saying there's other dimensions in this article? No. Multidimensional in this sense, I believe, just means the idea to take on a more dynamic role instead of being literally one-dimensional, right? You can only do one thing. You're multidimensional. You can do multiple things. So the heart is what they're saying here. This has a multidimensional. It has many roles for the heart in its in its physiology. Recognition of these cardiac properties may result in significant implications for these therapies of cardiovascular disease based on increasing cardiac energy efficiency, coherence, as they have it here, and bioinformation from cardioelectromagnetic field. Research studies to test this hypothesis are suggested. So there's their abstract. And this was, again, this is some old information. This was like 2005. This is 2005, guys. So yeah. Just some cool stuff that you can go to start your research. So we know that the heart has an electromagnetic field. We know that electromagnetic fields exist throughout everything, throughout the entire universe, regardless of what model you believe in. Sorry, still got let's get you back up here. Regardless of what model you believe in. And that interaction with these fields actually has effects. So let's go ahead and, where are we at? 11:42. Check one more thing here. Okay, this will be the last thing that we cover over on the YouTube side, and then we'll go ahead and jump on over to Rockfin, cover just a little bit more, and then open up the phone lines if anybody wants to jump in. That'd be a great time. If any Globers out there want to, try to school me on my flat Earth ignorance, go ahead and jump right on in. Or anybody cool out there, we can just have a cool conversation, right? I'm open to it. So let's go ahead and do this then. The grand unifying theory. All right, what the heck is going on here? So I'm just going to warn you, it's not going to be like super concise. It's not the kind of guy I am. It'll be somewhat concise, and then we can build upon it from there. But it is what it is, right? You'll always get blatant honesty from me. So this is what I believe is happening, and I base this on a couple different things. So first off, again, having the idea that everything is fields, that light actually is a part of that field, right? Which again is the ether, vacuum energy, whatever the hell you want to call it. It doesn't matter to me. I'll call it ether. So we have these excitations that form light and electrostatics and electromagnetism, which then form the atomic bonds, or really the just form a bunch of little mini fields that then interact with each other to form bigger fields to form the semblance of solid matter around us. Okay, so how do we manifest, right? How is that even a thing? Is that a thing? Well, this is how I think it is a thing, and how I think if maybe we know a little bit more of this mechanic, we can articulate better experiments to try to test this. So, when you have a thought or an imagining, right? Not everybody can do this, I will say. There are some people who actually only think in words, and I think that's pretty sad. Um, I actually tend to think in pictures and images, right? So, and a lot of people do. So there has to be light for any image, right? What you're seeing right now has to be light for you to see it. So inside your head, right, even when your eyes are closed, when you're dreaming or what have you, how is it that you are seeing that light? It's a great question. I'd love to know some opinions in the comments from you guys on both sides, because that is a very interesting question. Where does the light from our thoughts actually come from, and where does it go, right? For me, this is what I think happens. So we have another force in the universe that's actually very unknown, at least from what I can see. And it is the cosmic force that actually causes the torsion and tension in the ether that causes, all the other forces to take form. So what the heck is that, right? Is this God? Is this the, loving creator that all these religions talk about? And I think that that is definitely a possibility. However, one thing that's important to take note is that the light inside your head, right, in your thoughts, actually is provably controllable by you. Ultimately by you. You can control the images in your head. You can imagine anything that you want to imagine. It's just a matter of ability, right? Concentration. So what does that mean? Well, to put it simply, what this means is that on some level, you are manifesting because you are able to excite the ether that is permeating you, right? It permeates through everything. And in fact, an excitation of the ether ultimately is what causes our physical body to exist. So what causes that excitation? The only thing that I've ever seen or ever even been able to conceptualize being able to excite the ether and form light is thought. So this brings new credence to the idea that we are all living in the thought of God, and that we are all a part of God and a part of God's thought. I can break this down further, again, to just something that we humans have the natural ability to do: lucid dream. And when you lucid dream, if you pay close enough attention, you'll actually see it's very common that when you go to the dream, you split your ego up into various different parts, people, and for one reason or another, right, the reason changes, but ultimately is always to teach you something. That something will always change. So, with that being said, I believe that that is a small demonstration, if you will, of exactly what is going on the grand scale. And as a result, because we do have the ability to think, we are endowed with the spark, with this energy, this life-giving, conscious energy, that we are able to excite the ether ourselves on small scales. However, laws of waves still apply, right? Larger, more powerful waves will be able to overpower, change direction, alter smaller waves. And that's where you get these ideas of, these battles of will. You can get into the idea of like, what is will? Well, what is emotion? And you get down to it. everything is waves, right? Everything is waves. So I do want to go ahead and leave it on that note for the YouTube side. I think that was a great little conclusion. So, but I won't leave you high and dry, right? Speaking of which, about time to go take a break. So let's go ahead and put on a fantastic song for you guys. I have it already picked out. It is very lovely, very relaxing. At the end of it, we will be cutting the YouTube stream. So, folks, if you are tuning in, and Globers especially, if there's anybody who disagrees, I especially like to talk with you. Very cordial, right? I definitely won't bite. So feel free to come on in. We're going to be using Video Ninja. So that's just an in-browser link that you click on. It'll be very easy to join up. So let's go ahead and play this. And Rockfin, I will see you on the other side. YouTube, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. By the way, today's song is brought to you by Conspiracy Music Guru and is titled Heart. Enjoy.